guarantee. Eric?
Mike, time to make history. Players in Circa Million make 5 picks against the spread each week with quarterly and full season payouts.
Circa Survivor entries choose one team each week with no point spread. The last one standing wins it all.
We have $21 million on the line. Are you in? Visit circasports.com for details.
We recommend listening to the CW Pod with a glass of Steeple Ridge Bourbon. Grown, distilled, well-rested, and bottled in Erling, Iowa. Now from the Channel Seed Studios, this is the CW Pod, fueled by Steeple Ridge.
Tuesday, the 11th of August, CW Pod here on Iowa Everywhere. Off to Ireland tomorrow. Want to get this thing in for you guys. It's my annual win-loss over-under plays for the upcoming football season. Got a lot to get to today. Before we do it, thank our sponsor, Steeple Ridge Bourbon, of course. Had a lot of that this weekend, actually. It's lovely. I also want to thank our friends in the Channel Seed Studios. Harvest just around the corner. Spent a lot of time with the channel guys and gals. A lot of gals. Hanging out with Channel Seed last week up in Ames. Appreciate them for inviting me to be a part of their annual Ignite thingamajig where they get everybody all fired up for the upcoming harvest. Great people. Great partner. Real quick, if you're going to the state fair, you might see this. The Iowa Everywhere Dart Bus that is all over Des Moines right now. There's Hassel and I on one side. Murph and Andy are on the other. Oh, just lovely. They did a great job with that. Eric Herman, shout out to him for the design on this bad boy. So we're going to do a deal with us. If you see this bad boy in the wild, take a picture of it, post it on social media, tag us. We will get a hold of you and send you a free Iowa Everywhere t-shirt. That's pretty simple. Not a bad deal. The Iowa Everywhere bus. That's what you got to do. You don't need to do a hashtag, nothing like that. Just tag us. We'll see it. We'll get a hold of you, and we'll send you a t-shirt. But make sure to promote it for us. You got to do a little bit of work. Be like, oh, yeah, this bus is badass. We need more of these. That's what you do. All right. Totals. Let's go. Always one of my favorite shows of the year. I'm a very average handicapper. I do tend to do pretty well on these. This is my best thing I do, I think, is these preseason. But I say that right now, and watch. This is going to be the year that I totally flame out. I will say this. I do think I'm going out on a few limbs this year. These are not conservative plays that I'm, for the most part, rolling with here. So I give you that as a caveat before I start this. I really believe that college football right now, I think we have an absolute epidemic on our hands when it comes to people talking about this sport in the wrong way. We have too many people who talk about college football on a daily basis who will say things like, well, we'll start with Texas Tech. Well, they've never won big before. I don't give a shit what they did 30 years ago. This is a different world. They're outspending everybody. It doesn't matter what they did in 1995, people. It doesn't matter. You're going to hear things like, well, Matt Rule in his third year at Temple and Baylor, it doesn't matter. The world has changed. Okay, so I'm gonna preface it by that. Like that is a big deal to me. You can't really go year to you can in some circumstances. I think a team like Arizona State and Iowa State will stay in the Big 12, even Iowa to an extent. Like there are certain programs in certain places where it's okay to do that to an extent, right? Like you can't go overboard with it, but you like. How many starters are coming back? Are the coordinators back? Same head coach. How many portal guys did they take, right? Like that, you can still factor that in. But on a big picture, if you hear somebody saying that, your spidey sense should be going up, okay? Because it's just so different. Like, my favorite one, and I'm not going to get to them today, but like the Penn State thing. Well, James Franklin can't win it big. Well, maybe he couldn't when he had disadvantages. Maybe he can now. I don't know. And maybe he is a bad coach when it comes to those big games. We'll find out. But I know when it comes to pure talent, Penn State ain't taking a backseat to anybody right now, okay? Where they probably were 5 years ago. They probably didn't have as much talent as Ohio State and Michigan at that time. Now I would say they're right there with them. Can he beat them? We'll find out. So let's start things off. Well, I'm going to start with Texas Tech. I have 2 Texas Tech plays. I expect these to be somewhat controversial. I'm going to take Texas Tech at plus 600 to win the Big 12. So this is a flyer. They are not the favorite. Kansas State would be the favorite. You can get plus 600 at just about any shop right now. I did shop these around. If they were an outlier line, I will note that in these, because some of these, it's like you can get a different line, but there's a lot of juice in one way or the other. I do note that, but this is a pretty consistent play at plus 600. I am taking Texas Tech on a flyer to win the Big 12. I am also playing their over at plus 8.5. Okay, so let's analyze Texas Tech. Why am I landing here? Because you have heard me on all of my platforms all summer long say this is a great wild card. Texas Tech, to me, might be the most interesting college football team I have ever seen heading into a season. You have a coach that is on the hot seat. You have a multi-billionaire booster who is trying to buy his way to a national championship and completely blow up the system at the exact same time. Okay, you have millions upon millions of dollars that have been pumped into this roster, and yet they didn't upgrade their quarterback. Fascinating across the board. I think that Joey McGuire is a pretty good coach. I think that their talent, no doubt, to me, their talent, scholarship 1 to 85 is the best in the Big 12 conference. Of course, there is the caveat of what happens if it doesn't go well. What happens if they lose a couple of games in September, which I don't think that they will, if you look at their schedule. All of that is real. We saw a program like Florida State last year just completely unravel with the pressure because of NIL, and that is very possible. I think Texas Tech's upgrades will pay. I actually, in a really weird way, I like the fact that they upgraded across the board and kept their quarterback. If you've listened to me commentate on the NFL over the years, I've said I like it when teams will build around, have a great scheme, get a good quarterback, don't overspend on a quarterback just because everybody else is. I think Texas Tech, in their own sicko way, are playing a little bit of money ball here. They're going to have the best lines, all this stuff combined. And I absolutely love it. This thing could blow up spectacularly. It could. But it also could pay off in a really big way. I look at 8.5. That tells me they just have to get to 9-3 in the Big 12, where I think they have the most talent. I'm going to play Texas Tech on the over at 8.5. A little bit risky. This could be a boom or bust situation, but I'm going to roll with the talent. And I don't think Joey McGuire is a bad coach. I think that for a lot of reasons, that place has just been weird, really, ever since Mike Leach left or was forced out. And that truly a Big 12 championship or bust, college football playoff or bust situation. Will the pressure be too much? I'm saying that their talent will outweigh that. Let's go to the ACC, where I'm doing another conference winner. And that's Clemson at plus 115. So basically even money for Clemson to win the ACC. We're not going out on a limb here. I just don't think the league's that good. And I think that they are, if Texas Tech is the most talented team in the Big 12, it's not by, I feel like there's other teams that I don't think there's really anyone, maybe Miami, but talent-wise, Clemson's in a league of its own. in the ACC. And, the one, I like to talk myself through these things. I don't just go all in one way or the other. A little bit unsure of Dabo in the new era. This is a guy who has constantly complained about paying players, and he just complains all the time. Dabo's never happy anymore. He started off as this lovable underdog, and now he's just unhappy. But it's a really big deal there. Football's a really big deal. Dabo is a guy, I think, who says that stuff because he wants to be folksy. He wants to appeal to his base. And I'm a South Carolina fan here, so I hate Clemson, okay? Dabo drives me nuts. Clemson fans are awful in that area compared to my Gamecock Nation. But I just think they're a lot better than everybody else. They do have a difficult schedule, so you got to analyze this. They've got road games at Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Louisville, and then they got to go to South Carolina at the end of the season. And they have to start off against LSU. So that's a thing, but they're favored, in my opinion, in every one of these games. And pretty significantly, too. Like I was looking at one particular odds maker has them favored by 14 at North Carolina, 10 at Texas Tech, 10 against SMU, and by 3 against South Carolina. So they're a pretty significant favorite in all of these games. They can very realistically lose that game to LSU to start the season, but you ought to have to factor in Brian Kelly loses that game more often than he wins. They always play that feature game on Mondays, and they don't win it very often. So I like Clemson over 9.5. They just got to get to 10-2 in that league. They've got one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the country, NFL players all over the roster. I like Clemson at 9.5. I'm also taking them even money basically to win the ACC. We're going to bounce around some Big 12 coming up here, a little Big 10. I'm going to take Utah over 7.5. Bounce back year. Again, don't worry about last year. I could make 2 excuses that are massive. They had the Cam Rising situation, which was a total distraction. Complete pain. Every week it was a pain. And then on top of that, new year in a new league. First year in a new league. That's a big deal. We're going to get to USC coming up too. That's a big deal. People forget about that. And I know a little bit contradictory of what I've said about you can't factor in too much previous year. But the thing is, it's like when you travel east and west, like these schools are having to do, there's certain things that you learn by doing it. I've talked to these people who book the travel and stuff for these teams. Anytime you go to a town for the first time, it is a headache. It's a stressful situation for the program because you haven't done it before. There's not that comfortability. And I will give Utah and USC both flyers for that from last year. Utah especially, if you remember their games at the end, they were still really good on defense. They were really good on defense. They just couldn't score. The quarterback situation was a damn disaster. So they went out and got the kid from New Mexico. They're going to be much better at quarterback. And I think they have the best defense in the Big 12, maybe the best offensive line in the Big 12. Texas Tech would have something to say about that. So don't ever act the first year. I don't think Utah wins the conference, but I'm going to comfortably take them over 7.5. I'm going to do the same with USC in the Big 10. I'm banking on Lincoln Riley not being as bad as a lot of people are making him out to be. I've seen Lincoln Riley do too many good things as a football coach. Okay. I also like the fact that they didn't go crazy in the portal. Lincoln Riley knows ball. Lincoln Riley knows if he has some talent. I think this Maivia kid at quarterback has an upside that, a lot. And the other thing, too, is Riley's a scheme guy. So a little patience. They bounce back after a rough first year in the Big Ten. They're going to have talent there. They have a huge advantage when teams come to the West, right? So I'm going to take USC over 7.5. I'm going to predict a bounce back year for the men of Troy. Let's go to the Big 12. We're going to go under 7.5 for BYU. Now, this number is different. I found this one on FanDuel. It is 6.5 in other spots. As of Sunday, when I put this together, you could get BYU under 7.5 on FanDuel. And it's not just the quarterback issue. That's a big deal. But they overachieved last year. And I don't think now they're going to be able to pass. They only have 8 starters back from the entire team last year that everybody's, again, like when you hear people talk about BYU, it's, well, you know, look at last year's team. Yeah, they have 8 starters back. Okay, if they were like Arizona State where you have 17 back or whatever it is, or Iowa State, okay, talk to me. They have 8 guys back, and they just lost their quarterback in the middle of the summer. Fading them. Absolutely fading them. I don't even need to look at their schedule. Fade BYU under 7.5. Fading another Big 12 team, and that's Oklahoma State. Gundy. Oh, what do we say about Gundy? This has Fran McCaffrey written all over it. The guy is unhappy. He's miserable to be around over there, I've heard. That's why he can't keep a coordinator. 36 new players in the portal this offseason. And maybe it works. You know, I'm playing them under 5.5. They're also the team that Hassel and I said we wouldn't be shocked if they were the team that was most willing to pop up and surprise you because of the Gundy factor. But the problem is, it's like, how many new years can you have new offensive and defensive coordinators? You know, that's what I'm looking at with Oklahoma State. It seems unstable. He's lost the fan base. It just feels to me like this is done. They got to go to Oregon in week 2. Right now, Oklahoma State, according to odds makers, only favored in 2 games all season at the start of the year. That's against Tennessee, Martin, and Tulsa. They're going to be like a 4-touchdown underdog at Oregon in week 2. They lose that game by 35. You come back and have a tough game against Tulsa, watch out. Like, they could fire Gundy in October here. And then what happens? So I'm going under 5.5. I just think the negativity is too much. You get to a point where you just need to rip the Band-Aid off. I feel like Oklahoma State may have waited a year too long. We'll see. I hope they go over because I like Mike Gundy. I like Mike Gundy in the Big 12. He's interesting. He says what he thinks. I appreciate that. It just feels to me like the man is cooked. All right, those are my official plays. The numbers are Texas Tech over 8.5, Clemson over 9.5, Utah over 7.5, USC over 7.5, BYU under 7.5, and Oklahoma State under 5.5. There were 3 others that I really looked at putting on the list and ultimately backed off on. The first was Illinois at 7.5 going over. Sexy play. And frankly, they deserve what they are getting this offseason with what they're bringing back in Bielema and the consistency that they've had there. I just think their schedule is just remarkably tougher. This is where I'm like just really weird about Indiana too. I don't know. I think that guy is pretty good. I think Indiana's a talented team. They didn't beat anyone in the regular season last year, really, for the most part. So, listen, the Illinois thing, I was really tempted. I left Vegas a few weeks ago, and I was all in on them. Just the schedule's just more difficult. So I'm going to wait and see there. I'm going to wait and see before I get too in on the Illini. The same with Nebraska. Again, everybody's going to talk about Matt Rule, year 3, Temple, Baylor, but these are different times. Does that really translate now? It's less about Rule to me, and it's more about Raiola, the quarterback, because he's clearly really good. If you watched him as a rookie and he got better, he took lumps last year. He never really curled up in the fetal position like you were waiting for the rookie to do. I really like him. I think he is the real deal. Is there enough around him in the Big Ten to hit that win total? I think that they will. I think Nebraska's an 8-4 team, but it's also, we've been here before with this program. I don't think they're going 10-2. I think they're an 8-4 team, but I'm not. I'll put Hassel's salary on this one, not mine. That's a little, it feels a little too buzzy with Nebraska, but I would definitely lean over if I had to. The last one is TCU, and I'm a little bit indifferent here with this one. TCU over 6.5. Robertson, the quarterback's really good. Robinson. You forget that Sonny Dykes had this team in the national championship game a few years ago. They got really hot in last year, go 8-5, but they really didn't beat anyone during that stretch. Okay, so I'm a little bit shy with the Horned Frogs, but I think talent-wise, NIL-wise, they might be top 5 in the league. What a big year for Sonny Dykes, too. I'm not saying that guy's about to get fired, but they've clearly lost a little bit of that magic. You get the momentum at the end of last year. It feels like TCU capitalizes off of that, doesn't it? It feels like it to me. The Big 12 is setting up to be a good conference for TCU. They have the money. They have the facilities. They have a coach. They don't have great fan support. So, you got an experienced quarterback back. Feels like an over. All they got to do is go 7-5 and I win. I like TCU this year. I would lean over with them. But those are not official plays because I'm a little gun shy with TCU because they didn't beat anyone in that stretch where they all got hot and we started giving them credit for it. It was a really lackluster run of teams. So there you have it. There's my official plays for preseason 2025. Clemson over 9.5, Texas Tech over 8.5, Utah over 7.5, USC over 7.5, BYU under 7.5, Oklahoma State under 5.5. Don't forget, take a picture of that bus. Tweet it at us, Facebook, whatever. We'll send you a free Iowa Everywhere t-shirt. CW Pod, I am off to Ireland. You can follow along on my social media feed all for the next 10 days from the Emerald Isle. Aiden Wyatt produced today's show, as always, for my friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon and Channel Seed Studios. Chris Williams signing off here on the CW Pod on Iowa Everywhere.